My name is Masrah, and I'm an academic from UTM. And my research area is natural language processing, focusing on text and sentiment mining. I'm sure we are all aware that bullying was a problem even before internet existed. However, it was a problem that did not extend into the victim's hand, the victim's pocket, the victim's bedroom, or wherever the victim may be. Most of us seem to think that physical assault and cyberbullying as being two different experiences. However, the pain that caused by both can lead to the same problems such as depression, anxiety, and suicide. Even so, internet has become an integral part of our life. From school to work to socializing, it is the primary modes of communication. And for many people, we have taken the internet to a whole new level that practically can perform anything in its virtual landscape. On the other hand, the social media, which has become prominent parts of our life, mainly for the youth and the young adult, the influence of social media on them is of particular importance because they are the heaviest users of social networking. A study by Pew recently stated that 95% of the teenagers in the US have access to a smartphone, and 45% of them said that they are online almost constantly. So, social media platforms like Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, they are the most widely platform used by this age group, and only 51% of them access Facebook. So that will be the people from my age. So a recent study by Global Web Index stated that the number of social media accounts owned by this group has risen from 3 accounts in 2012 to 8 accounts in 2016. So at one time they were doing their social networking with Facebook. At the same time they are posting their photos on Instagram and uploading the videos on YouTube. So if you look at the time spent on social media every day, so the young adult and the youth are at the very forefront, devoting almost 3 hours a day on social media. As the age increases, the time spent on social media is becoming less, and as the country matures and develops, the time spent on social media by their users can be as little as 30 minutes a day, as in the case of Japan. So the more time you spend on the internet, so the more risk you are exposed to. From a study recently, so young people at the age of 25 and below who have experienced being bullied, so they are more likely to self-harm and also commit suicide. A recent study by Cybersecurity Malaysia stated that 250 cases of cyber harassment has been reported in 2012, and the number increases to 338 cases in 2016 for the past 5 years. So in total, there were 1,524 cyberbullying cases recorded for the past 5 years. However, another study by Norton Security Index stated that only 10% of the Malaysian parents reported that their children have been bullied online, while 40% believe that their children may experience being bullied online than having been bullied physically. I'm sure the number of cyberbullying cases is more serious than what is reported because the victims and their families chose to be silent. So there are many types of cyberbullying, like harassment, exclusion, or outing, and so on and so forth. But there is one type of cyberbullying that is often overlooked, and that is sarcasm. Sarcasm is usually perceived or taken lightly because it is often always perceived as being a humor. If you look at the term sarcasm, which originates from sarcasm, that's a Greek word which has a meaning of to tear or to strip the flesh off. You can imagine that the painful okay, if you have to strip your own flesh. Yeah. So, and that's exactly how a sarcastic remarks would do to someone's feeling. To identify sentiment of positive and negative in any conversation is easy for a human or a machine. So there are some tools out there which is known as sentiment analyzer that can easily detect positive sentiment like beautiful, excellent, or negative sentiments like bad or ugly. The challenge is that the difficult task can be for detecting sarcasm, for a human and also a machine. The reason is that because a human, when they say something, they always state the opposite of what is implied. And if you're often being sarcastic, you know that when you say something sarcastically, it always comes with special intonation or facial expression. Yeah? So the challenge can come if you don't have the common ground of the conversation. Yeah? So it can lead to misunderstanding of the sarcastic phrases. And worse is that some people can't even reliably interpret sarcasm. So if that's a problem for a human, so how do you think that a machine can do better? So the challenge of a computer scientist is trying to train the machines or teach the machines that humans do not exactly mean what they say. So in order to train, the system, so we ask the system to learn on looking at the polarity in a sentence. So usually, sarcastic phrases will contain both positive and negative sentiment. The most common technique in identifying sarcasm in a system or social media is by looking at the contrast polarity in a sentence, but it will make the machine more easy to understand if the phrases or the sentence comes along with a sarcasm hashtag, like sarcasm or sarcastic. So the other hashtags will be just a list of indicators to help the system to learn more of certain phrases to indicate whether it is sarcasm or non-sarcasm. But the challenge may come if you have to identify sarcastic phrases that do not contain any hashtag at all, or sarcastic phrases that start with negative situation phrase followed by a positive sentiment, or sarcastic phrases that may contain exaggeration, onomatopoeia, laughter expression, and so on. So for that, to detect sarcasm without hashtags, we have, we made the system learn by looking at the sentiment of the phrase, okay, and then combined with pragmatic features. So we identify the segment of the phrase, whether it is a positive sentiment or a negative sentiment, and after that we look at the pragmatic features that are being used. So it can be a combination of pragmatic features. So each of these pragmatic features will be given a strength value. So the strength value of the combination of the phrase and the pragmatic features, if it reaches a certain threshold, then therefore the phrase is considered as being sarcastic. Another way of detecting sarcasm that contain no hashtag at all is by looking at the hashtag that comes along with the sarcasm indicator. Okay, for example, not really or hate it. Usually hashtags will contain some sentiment, for example, hate it. Yeah. So first we need to identify what is the orientation of the hashtag. So to identify the orientation of the hashtag, so we'll use the rules where a negation that combines with a negative hashtag will bring the value of a positive hashtag. For example, not, no problem. Yeah. So a positive hashtag, to identify the sentiment of a positive hashtag, we look at the negation plus the positive word in the hashtag, and it will indicate a negative sentiment. For example, not good. So once we have identified the sentiment of the hashtag, we combine the sentiment of the hashtag with a phrase, either positive or negative, and therefore it will give a value whether it is sarcasm or non-sarcasm. The hashtags are also used for emphasizing, okay? So we have made some experiments and we see that a positive hashtag that combined along with a negative hashtag will give a very positive phrase. So this phrase tend to be the potential candidate of a sarcasm. Well, all the techniques that we have used have been tested using Twitter dataset, and the sarcasm or the sarcastic classification has been done using machine learning. So with all the techniques that have been given, so we hope that there will be a more intelligent sentiment analyzer will be produced in order to mitigate the harassment that can occur when the youth or the young adult is using the social media. Well, I'm not saying that all sarcasm is bad. It's better used sparingly, just like, you know, putting spices in the cooking. So if you have too much spices in your cooking, so that can cause blazing intensity in your food. Yeah. So therefore, it can also ruin the taste. So if you think that sarcasm is funny, so I suggest that, you know, we think again. Thank you very much.